10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if I could get your attention. First things first, I always just want to say thank you very much. I know that all of you, well, maybe not say all is a little bit too extreme, but most of you have extremely busy schedules. So I appreciate you taking the time to come to these AP review sessions. I also ask that we do respect the time that others are providing as well. So again, just as we get going, make sure you're paying attention, make sure you're not distracting others, and do your best to get the most you possibly can. Those of you on the couches, it's probably going to hurt your neck to have to face this way, so I would maybe go to another couch, maybe relocate. It's probably a better idea, more for your neck than anything else. You know, I don't want you sitting in class tomorrow like this. So, you have everywhere to go. You can always sit in the desk over there. That's not what I wanted. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, just to kind of go through and to give you the very basics of what the test is going to be. By the way, the test is in 2.5 weeks. Just a reminder of that, it is in 2.5 weeks. The good news is I think it's a full week and a couple days after the AP chemistry exam. Yeah? So you will have a little bit more time to focus on just AP World.
It's the first.
Good. Nice. The psychology exam is in a week. Congratulations. All right, focus back, because I know that this is some of your first AP exam that you are taking. I want to briefly go through what you are to expect. Ladies and gentlemen, the AP exam is on a Thursday morning on the 17th. And again, if you want to talk, you can talk at home. That's fine. If you want to litter, you can litter at home, but not here. The AP exam is on May 17th. That is a Thursday. It is a late start Thursday for everybody else except for you. You will be on campus at 7:30 giving me a high five before you go into your room. You're going to make sure that you bring with you 3 things: 2 black pens, 2 pencils, and a snack, protein-rich, preferably not Flamin' Hot Cheetos or animal fries. So I want you to make sure that you have those 3 things. You're going to go into the room. You're going to fill out a bunch of bubbles about you as an individual. You're going to ask and see if they have an instructor number. If they have an instructor number for me, put that number down so that I don't have to aggregate all the data myself. Disaggregate all the data myself. You're then going to be given the AP exam. You're going to start with multiple choice. 55 multiple choice questions in 55 minutes. All of those multiple choice questions will be like the ones that you are reading, because these are released AP multiple choice questions. And you are going to then answer all these questions. These are all stimulus based, which means they have some sort of document that accompanies all of them. Stimulus based questions are great because it's better than having nothing. But it's also harder, largely because some of the documents can be pretty confusing. Remember, use them as a stimulus. It's just oh yeah, I remember something like that. Because a lot of the times you can answer these questions without really even reading the document fully. It acts as a springboard for your memory to try to help you bring back all the things that you learned in this class. After the 55 minutes are up, you then go to short answer questions. Short answer questions will always have 3 parts in them, A, B, and C, and they are also going to respond to a stimulus. A short answer question general rule is that you want to provide about 6 to 8 sentences responding to all of those prompts. My general rule is that you think 2 ways. Number 1, you either think, hey, this person knows absolutely nothing about this topic, and I need to fully explain it to them. Or I want you to think that the person who's reading this knows absolutely everything about the topic, and they're testing you on whether you know it, which is actually the case. So, most of the time. So, you want to make sure you do those short answer questions. I say about 6 to 8 sentences. They will give you a literal 1-page thing to write on that will have a little box. try to get down to about 3/4 of that box. If you're a really big writer, fill it up. If you're a really teeny tiny writer, get halfway. But try to make sure that you fully answer the questions. It's going to say identify and explain. So you want to identify in a sentence and explain in 1 or 2 sentences for each little bullet point. Then you take a break and you eat your protein snack. You go outside, you stretch, you breathe some air. You do not talk about any of the exam questions, just in case you get a proctor who is evil and is looking to make your scores not count, and then you spent $98 for nothing. So don't talk about any of those questions. Don't talk about any of those questions. You will then go back, and you'll be given the essay portion. The essay portion you will have what is it? An hour and 35 minutes. Yep. You have about an hour and 35 minutes to do a document-based question and a long essay question. They will give you the 15-minute reading period at the beginning to go through all the documents. You do not have to start with the DBQ. You can go on and do the LEQ if you would like to. You don't have to. I suggest starting with the DBQ because it usually takes longer. You're given about an hour to write the DBQ and then about 35 minutes to write the LEQ. So you're writing 2 essays in about an hour and a half, a little bit over. Cool? Hannah.
Will they let us eat during the test?
They will not let you eat during the test.
So we have to wait?
They should not let you eat during the test. They should not, but if they do, then they do. But I wouldn't go in expecting it. Yes. Carmen? And yes, I knew that you are Carmen, and that is Hannah. Yeah. Okay. Listen, you might have the same question. Don't distract others. No. They are they're going to be separate questions. However, you will have a choice for the LEQ. They will give you 2 essay prompts.
But none of them are related to the
None of them are related to the DBQ, no. Usually it'll be a different, in fact, usually it's a different time period, not always, but I think usually it's a different time period. By the way, you can get a little hint as to what time period the essays are going to be from as you're doing the multiple choice questions. If you say, hey, there's not a lot of modern era questions. That's weird. There's only like 3. Chances are, one of your essays are going to be about that. We're not there yet. Yes?
But can you study during the break? Like, can you though?
No, I know. I think they're going to say no. I think that they're going to make sure your backpacks stay closed. I don't even think you're allowed to have your cell phone during the breaks. Yeah, or at least you're not supposed to. Again, depending on who your proctor is, but I don't think you're supposed to. Because I think they don't want anybody cheating, sending out things. Cool? Okay. Then, you are all probably going to be sick after that. I have a feeling that you're probably going to start feeling sick, so you might want to think about planning ahead with a doctor's note, just in case that you leave and you have a really bad headache and you need to go spend 4 hours at the beach or something. So just know that. And of course, remember that you are not going to come back and tell me about what the essay options were. You're not going to do that. Good. Glad that we're clear on that point as well. So the first part is, of course, the multiple choice questions. Again, you read the questions first, then you start attacking the questions. What you want to do is you want to go through the process of elimination. So as we go through, thank you very much. That is delicious.
You want your credit card back? Or
Yes, I do want the credit card back. Please. You bought what? Just kidding. Okay. Thank you very much. Are you staying or what?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Because these students loved AP World so much that they're coming back to the review session. Huh? No. So.
I gave you salsa.
You did, but not right now. Hold on. So, again, you go through the process of elimination. So, as we go through these questions, what I'm going to ask is that you read the question and then tell me what the answer is not. Remind me what the answer is not. Elias, go first. Read our first question.
Which of the following long-term changes in the period circa 1550 to 1700 best demonstrates that the actions described by the in the passage failed to fully achieve their goal?
Shh. Yes, Elias, what is it not?
it's C because I'm pretty sure that's not what the Spanish school does.
Fair enough. Now, is that a long-term goal or a long-term change? There you go. Long-term change. Let's come back to C. Why? Fine. It is C. Now, and it's okay to guess that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if only you had a good history teacher who taught you words like syncretic, then maybe you'd have a shot at this exam. What does syncretism mean? Mixing! Right? So we're going to be looking at the creation of global empires. Of course, when you have global empires, you are going to have people from different origins who are going to be interacting with each other. Through their interaction, they will then have children who will then create syncretic cultures. That's apparently how interaction happens. Okay, so that is that. Now, why can't it be A? Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Fail to fully achieve their goals. Yeah, okay. And yeah, because the goal has nothing to do with Christianity. It has nothing to do with silver necessarily in that one. The goal is Christianity. Good. Why can't it be B? Yeah, again, it has nothing to do with faith. Now, are A and B both true? A and B are both true. So if you thought maybe A or B, they are true, but then that is testing you on whether or not you truly understood the prompt. Now, that brings up a good point. These questions are what's called spiraled, which means the first question is going to be quote-unquote easier or more directly related to the prompt. As they get further away from the prompt, they will become a little bit, and thank you for saying that. That was a good face. When I say prompt, I meant stimulus. Away from the document, they are going to be a little bit more difficult and a little bit less related to the document and more based off of what you remember from class. Does that make sense? Did I say that clearly? I'm pretty tired right now, so if I say something crazy, just make it the face again. So that was perfect. Good. And then D, also true. Spanish dependence on coerced labor in the Americas is also true. Again, it doesn't have to do with the kicking out of the devil in this document. Number 2, Angie. Just a question, and then tell me what it is not.
Disruptive passions differ from the European attempts to promote Christianity in South and East Asia in period 1450 to 1750 in that.
What can it not be? I like this question a lot.
It's not. It's not really B.
Which one?
It's not B.
Why not?
It doesn't really have anything to do with politics.
That's true, but what are they able to do in this document that what are they able to do with that document in order to create syncretic traditions? What was that? Somebody said something that was correct and good. Nice! What does subjugate mean? To put a submarine in and adjudicate. And what does that mean? Yeah, to rule over, to control. And so it's interesting to note that the answer is B. The answer is B because South and East Asia. By the way, here's a fun little question for 2.5 weeks. Now, Angie, we're going to talk about. Here's a fun question for you. What modern countries are in East Asia? China, Japan, and the Koreas, both North and South. And of course, don't forget about the Taiwanese, who up until about 1975 were actually considered China. So, wait, whoa. What modern day country takes up a majority of South Asia? India. Let's take a thought. Oh, I don't even want to know what Mr. Marchetti said. I want to take a second to think about this. Which empires were in power in South Asia? Somebody said it. The Mughal, and who was in power in East Asia? In Japan, yes. The Japan or the Tokugawa shogunate, yes. But which empires in China? Qing at the end, and the Ming. Now, whoa. Remember, listen. Back. Focus. Say. So, the fact that Europe cannot, because remember, the Mughal dynasty, the Qing and Ming dynasty, these are incredibly centralized, powerful, wealthy empires. It will be impossible for those petty, backwards Europeans, despite the fact they had a flowering of the Renaissance. It doesn't matter. We drew pictures, right? Just because they have the Renaissance is not going to give them the ability to conquer extremely powerful, centralized empires like the Mughal or the Ming and the Qing. Which means they're not going to be able to force their religion on anybody either. Does that make sense? That's why the answer is B. Just to go through it, why can't it be A? Well, it does. Well, I just also think, yeah, I would say A, it doesn't really happen successfully. In South Asia, there's really not much Christianity that's going to spread. East Asia, it does, but Confucianism largely says, oh, well, I'll take that piece and that's kind of nice, but everything else, you're inferior, you barbarian. So it will happen in some cases. In Japan, there'll be actually a mass conversion until the Tokugawa shogunate exiles and murders all of them, including Liam Neeson in the movie Silence. But, good. So yeah, you're right. I can accept that. Why can't it be C? C is true, but mass revolts of strong local, I would say they don't have any. They don't have. It's not that what best explains it. So I would say, sure, if B wasn't there, then maybe that would be the best. Nice. And then D, Europeans became too closely involved in local sectarian no, not during this time period. It will be in the modern era, maybe, but really that's good. Okay, number 3. Isai, why don't you read that out?
Which of the following would be most useful in establishing the reliability of the eschatology depiction of events in the past? I don't think it's A.
Why not?
I don't think they don't have the same opinion. That's exactly the opposite. The opposite. I wanted to say.
Good. So I do like that. Now I'll clarify that is, yeah, it's not gonna give us any new information based off of what another conquistador says, because they'll probably say the same thing. You want to find a different one. Good. What else is not the answer? Why not D? Yeah, why would you want somebody in Madrid's opinion? If anything, get somebody from Barcelona. But why would you? You're not going to get somebody from Spain because they weren't there. They didn't see it. That's not going to help the account in any way. And then why can it not be C? Why can't it be C? Good. You can't check it, really. So the answer is, in fact, B. The answer is, in fact, B. Ladies and gentlemen, what's that question asking you to do? More than that. Say it again. So thank you, Vincent. That's 100% correct. This document is asking you to evaluate this source. This document is asking whether or not you can hip check the document, whether you can figure out the historical context, the intended audience, the points of view, and the purpose, and whether or not you understand how to use and evaluate a document. Some of these questions will be a part of the AP exam. Cool? Everything all right back there? Okay. Good. Nikki, read number 4. I love these pictures. Shh, I want to hear. Nice. What is it not? Yes. Why not? Yeah, there's something about Jerusalem in there. And so, or Jesus. The second one, yeah. But not the first one. So it wouldn't be C. Good. What else can it not be? Why not? It can't be A. Why not, Margot? Yeah, I would say the globe doesn't say scientific achievements. If maybe they had something around the stars, or they had some sort of tool that was involved. Yeah, it's just a globe. Honestly, that is a good argument, and knowing that Islam is going to be a huge conduit for scientific advancements and education in general, that was not a bad answer. It was not a bad answer. But just knowing that the world is round is not too much of a scientific advancement at this point. Okay, good. What else can it not be? Ladies and gentlemen, again, I know you're with a lot of your friends, but if you want to talk, then you don't need this. Then go home. But if you're here to study and you're here to learn the thinking, Sophia, if you're here to learn the thinking behind the questions, because that's what you're going to need to do by yourself in 2.5 weeks. Okay? So, why can it not, what else is not the answer there? Go ahead. Yeah, why not D? Yeah, and well, the Mughal dynasty isn't controlling trade networks around the world. Really, it's the Chinese at first, and then Europeans are going to smash their way in. So yeah. So then the answer is B. And we're going to talk about how that's a major theme of this time period. Number 5. Ella, why don't you do number 5?
The portrait of Emperor.
Jahangir!
Yeah.
Say it!
Jahangir.
See, you just said it.
To its estimated evidence of which of them and I don't think it's C.
Why not?
I mean, it doesn't really have any.
Yeah, and Jahangir would be a traditional elite, and so him sponsoring this, it's not really new tradition. If we had known it was from a merchant, from an urban, maybe, but because he's a traditional elite, that's not really there. Good. What else can it not be? Say it again. I can't hear you. B. Why not?
It doesn't have anything to do with it. Really, it doesn't really talk about like markets and exporting. It's like representing like a religion.
Good. Okay, it's representing a religion. It has nothing to do with artistic works for export markets. Yeah, they're not saying, by the way, this was sold at. Yeah, good. Okay, what else can it not be? Why not? Say it again.
Christianity and Islam, they might have mixed, but not really.
What are they testing you on? They're testing you on whether or not you know what happened politically in the Mughal dynasty as they incorporated incredibly diverse groups of people into their empire. Many people remember Akbar. It's a trap! And remember that Akbar is... they remember that Akbar created a syncretic faith called the divine faith. Yeah. But it doesn't incorporate elements of Christianity necessarily. And what 2 religions does it create a syncretic tradition of? Islam, Hinduism, maybe some Zoroastrianism, but not necessarily Christianity. Good! But what do we know the Mughals did do, especially under Akbar? It's a trap! A. They were tolerant of other minority religions until you get to the grandson Aurangzeb, in which case you see the feud between Hindus and Muslims who are, yeah. Mm-hmm. Great. I want to pick on today. Andy, why don't you read number 6?
Alright. Which of the following was the most likely purpose of the portraits of the emperor? And I said
What is it not,
it's
Andy?
not B,
Why not?
because Hellenistic Greek art forms in India.
Yeah, I mean, is that true? Yes, there is Hellenistic art in India because Alexander the Great ran into Indian elephants and went, ah, and then ran away and died. But you do see Hellenism spreading in India, but not really because of this. Good, it's not B. What else can it not be? Which one? Why not? Do you say B or what do you D? We went over B. Did you say B? You said D. Why can't it be D? He does sponsor artwork, so it could be D. What can it not be, though? Yeah, why not?
Because they didn't convert, first of all, and second of all, I think that's Mary, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
And, that's Christianity, not Islam.
Nicely done. Virgin Mary did not give birth to Muhammad, gave birth to Jesus. And so you're not gonna have that. Also, by the way, nicely done. The Mughals are already Islamic, so there's not a conversion. Very good point as well. What else can it not be? Yeah, why not?
It's Islam, so no one else can be divine but Muhammad.
True. Now, Akbar kind of does that, but it's not. Emperors were not necessarily considered divine. Were they divinely ordained? Sure, but they were not necessarily divine. It is D, because they are going to sponsor wealth. For example, in the Mughal dynasty, you all know this because when your parents take you to Vegas, you probably stop there. The Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal is the sponsoring of art by the Mughal dynasty. Shah Jahan built this beautiful syncretic building that blends Hindu and Islamic architecture into a monument for his wife who died. And he wanted to create the most beautiful thing in the world, and he then had the Taj Mahal created. So they do sponsor arts. Good! Ladies and gentlemen, any questions on multiple choice? I know it's hard to focus during multiple choice, and I know that I go through a painstaking process. Again, the reason I do that is because I care more about your thinking process and what you're doing as you're going through multiple choice than you getting the right answer. Because let's be honest, sometimes in multiple choice you guess and you get the right answer. So I want to make sure that you actually know it and that you're thinking through it. Cool? Any questions on it? Okay, I'm going to go through the basic lecture of the early modern era. I encourage you, again, to take notes. I encourage you to listen. I encourage you to ask questions. One of the benefits of you being here is you being able to say, hey, I don't really know what that means, Mr. Oftedal. What is that? I don't get it. So please, ask me questions. I will definitely appreciate a break so I can take a drink of water at some point. So I won't get upset at you for asking a question unless it's, can I have a bite of your sandwich? You did, and I just finished that salsa on Saturday, and it was delicious. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now, just to give us a brief recap of where we've come from, we started our review sessions with the early, let's take a step back and drop it off. We started with the pre-classical and classical eras. Last week, we went through the classical era. We went through the post-classical era. What we see happening since the pre-classical is the dawn of civilization that starts with the rise of agriculture around 10,000 BCE. The first civilizations that arise out of that happen at around 3,500 BCE. By 600 BCE, we see a new wave of empires that are going to grow, develop, expand rapidly, and largely encompass the major geographic regions that we know. And it's during the classical era that those empires really develop the unique features of each of those geographic regions, both politically, economically, culturally, and socially. In the post-classical era, we see an expansion of, once again, a new wave or third wave of empires that are going to now take the territory that was and expand even more so. And you see the creation of two unique world systems, the world system of Afro-Eurasia and the world system of the Americas. And that was a process called hemispheric integration. Because the hemispheres are integrating, particularly the northern and the southern. Now we start the early modern era. And students typically like the early modern era because it starts pretty much with an event that you all pretty much came into this class already knowing. You actually don't get a day off for school from this. I used to. But there's a national holiday, there are statues erected from this individual, and there's even a little rhyme that you have already memorized because in 1492, Columbus, yay, I knew that, right? We see the voyages of Columbus, which are going to take those two separate world systems of Afro-Eurasia and the Americas and create, for the first time, a sustained link between the two, and creating a process called globalization. Now, I want something to be clear. While globalization is the theme of the early modern era, since 1492 up until right now, the world is becoming even more globalized and interconnected. So this is a process that is continuously impacting our own life, as we even see the United States playing a major role in conflicts and issues all around the world. That's the reason why we care about what Kim Jong-un does in North Korea. It's because of globalization. And so as we go through this is kind of the beginning of the globalization process, but it's important because it is the first sustained link. So we're going to look at some of the causes and developments that occur that help to both facilitate globalization and also what happens because of globalization. Oh, which is nice. And there's a really nice HD image I have here. Usually that is much nicer. I'm not sure why that is the case. But hemispheric integration to globalization. Probably the biggest thing that we see is actually the creation of new global trade networks. We know that hemispheric integration is facilitated by the Silk, Salmon, and Indian Ocean Sea Road. What you're going to see because of globalization, the development of maritime technology, the Europeans passing their way into the Indian Ocean, is a reliance less on overland trade, and more so on oceanic or maritime trade. And what we start to see is just the intensification and continuation of both the traditional, but particularly around the Indian Ocean. And oh look, it's HD. And so what you see happening here is really European exploration, which is going to mark that dramatic shift away from just hemispheric to globalization. Because as Columbus sails the ocean blue, you see the Americas and the abundance of natural resources, and unfortunately Europeans will also notice the labor force, that will then begin to give Europeans exactly what they want. Here's a wonderful continuity throughout pretty much all of our time period, even today. Europeans and people want access to Asian goods. Europeans, since the classical era, have demanded things like silk and porcelain and Indian spices like pepper that they want access to, and they're continuously trying to find a link to get to Asia, which is why you see Europeans beginning to explore the coast of Africa to try to bypass both the Ottoman Empire, the Islamic Empire that they did not want, that they were fighting wars with, and of course those pesky Italians who were raising prices and controlling Mediterranean trade. They want to get around that. And so eventually they're going to round the tip of Africa and create the first sustained link into India and Asia. Columbus, because of intense competition, wants to find another route. And so he will go west. Of course, we already know he figured that out thank you, the Vikings, 400 years earlier. The Vikings, you're welcome. The Vikings had already done it. Leif Erikson had already kind of rediscovered the Americas, landed in Canada and said, yeah, I don't really like it. So they left. Or the natives kicked them out, but I like it. You do see Columbus then doing that, and then of course European powers, once they realize the wealth of the Americans, are also going to get into the game. This is the creation of what are called maritime empires. And those maritime empires are largely going to be the product of Europeans. So let's look at this, because it's interesting to think about, why Europe? Because when you think Europe and you think post-classical era, when you think Europe, you think a society that can't take two hands and smack their own bums. They are backward. They are in what's called the walk through the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages. This is when Europe is scientifically and academically and technologically backward. They literally lose things that pre-classical Harappa had in 3500 BCE, like plumbing and access to water. They look at the glory of Rome and they say, I don't feel like redoing that. And they just let things deteriorate. So how is it that Europe is going to be the place that is going to come to smash and really drive globalization? Well, there's a couple of reasons why. And the first is happenstance. Before the Europeans are even able to start to enter into the Indian Ocean, China has made a decision that really has dramatic impacts for European able to enter. And that is that they back out. Zheng He, who was a Muslim eunuch and an admiral in the Ming Dynasty's imperial navy, was already charged to go around the Indian Ocean and bring in more tribute payments. Essentially what Zheng He was responsible for doing was sailing around and flexing at all of the different empires and groups of people around the Indian Ocean, saying, hey, guess what? China's for the Chinese again. We kicked out the Mongols. Look how awesome we are. And of course, he was ironically sailing around in massive Chinese junks, these massive ships that were called junks that are way bigger than the teeny little baby. Right? Massive! And the Zheng He was able to he successfully completed many of these tribute missions, and actually brings back goods from as far away as Africa. In fact, we have images of right here of giraffes that are brought back to serve in the New Dynasty capital's zoo, personal zoo. So they literally loaded giraffes and rhinoceri and other animals into these large Chinese junks and sailed them across the Mediterranean. While Christopher Columbus was still trying to figure out how to use a map. But what happens is the Ming Dynasty, as it begins to face some internal revolts, decides that these tribute journeys and voyages are actually a waste of money, and they pull out. So China backs out of the Indian Ocean, which opens up the door for Europeans to even become involved. In addition, Europeans began to, by the end of the post-classical era, increase their connections with the outside world. And some things that they're able to bring in are the technological innovations that will help them to continue to explore. Things like the magnetic compass and the astrolabe, also the combination of both square and Dow sails, triangular sails, is going to help spur maritime adventures. Now, those things come from both Islam and China. Another unique thing about Europe, and really in relation to China and the Ming Dynasty, is the fact that by the end of the post-classical era, European borders within their territory have largely solidified. Those kingdoms with a bunch of kings with black and nail polish and capes and they love vampires, those Gothic kingdoms have largely fought it out and solidified their territories and actually began to centralize their authority within these little competing states. This is where you start to see England, Spain, France, Holy Roman Empire. These are the different regions within Europe that are going to become centralized and are going to continuously compete with each other. While they're still going to fight wars, because Europeans love that. They love fighting. So, and Europeans are still going to fight wars. They're also going to try to compete economically as well. And so they're trying to outdo one another, not just politically, but also economically. And then lastly, as part of this, you're going to see a special relationship develop between kings and those people who live in cities. Now, you know them, of course, you live in Cape Town, the delicious burgers, who are known in France as the bourgeoisie. These are people who live in towns. Typically, they are merchants. We see the development of merchant communities like the Hanseatic League, the merchant communities like the Medici and the banking communities Italy, and you're going to see, especially rulers saying, hey, wow, these people could really bring us a lot of wealth and a lot of taxes. So you're going to see states really supporting their merchants. Those are the reasons for why Europe. So then we see Europe enters into the global stage. Again, what you are going to see happening, it all starts with actually a small little European country, that is trying to prove itself, and that's Portugal. Portugal, right along the coast of the Iberian Peninsula, realizes, wow, we have probably the best launching off pad in all of Europe, because everybody else really has to go through the Italians who have a dominance here, and they can just simply go into the Atlantic. But the Portuguese are going to begin practicing their navigation by going around the tip of Africa. This is largely thanks to an individual by the name of Prince Henry, you guessed it, the Navigator, who set up a sailing academy, a shipbuilding academy, essentially an exploration academy. And he's going to commission voyages all along the coast. It's Bartholomew Diaz, who rounds the tip of Africa first, and Vasco da Gama, who makes it all the way to Calcutta, India, and establishes connections there. The Portuguese are going to be, and makes sense, are afraid of going too far into the ocean. So at first, what their voyages are going to do are simply hug the coast. And they're going to develop trade relations with the African kingdoms and societies that they meet along the way. Now the Portuguese are going to set up all around Africa and into Asia what are called trading coast empires. They're going to build fortresses with huge walls and cannons right on the coast. Because they don't have immunity to African diseases. Africa was once the European graveyard. So when Europeans would step off of their boats, they would die. Not instantly, obviously. But it was that people were so scared that they wanted to stay as close to the water as possible. And so you see these different trading posts that are getting developed. Eventually, from those trading posts, Europeans are going to gain trade connections, and because of their guns, also political influence. Oh yeah, nice. And then, of course, it's the next trading post empire after the Portuguese are going to be the Spanish, who are really going to smash their way into the Indian Ocean as well, conquer the Philippines. Why do we call it Philippines? Oh, because it didn't go for a second. The Philippines, and then eventually over to the Americas as they sponsor the Italian Cristoforo Colombo, which is what the Italians of my town decided to erect a statue right in the middle of town using taxpayer, yes, including Norwegian taxpayer money, in order to erect this wonderful statue that I had to drive past every day on the way to school. Should have faced it, should have done it. Eventually, you are going to see, and again, the Spanish are also going to be in charge of largely creating those maritime empires in the Americas. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But as far as the Indian Ocean, by the end of the time period, both the Portuguese and the Spanish are losing their global influence. The Portuguese are just too small. They're just too tiny. They're not centralized enough. They don't have the efficient taxation, and they just don't have as strong of a military and a navy. And so they are going to lose out not only to other European powers, but also to other Omani sailors, but also other native groups within the Indian Ocean. And the Spanish are also going to lose power largely because of the incredible amount of silver that pours into Spain is going to bankrupt their economy, and that's because of crazy inflation. So by the end, you have two new powers, the Dutch and the British, or the English, who are going to gain the Germany over, well, at least smash their way into it, gain more of a role into the Indian Ocean. And they do it in a very unique way. And again, it shows you the close relationship between merchants and kings, because these are the joint stock companies. Joint stock companies. What is a joint stock company? A joint stock company is when you have a private organization that essentially goes public. Individuals can buy stock in that company. You can buy a portion of ownership of that company. Essentially, what that does is this: it allows the company to have a ready access of capital or money in which it can grow. So the joint stock company can buy a whole new fleet of ships, and then pay its sailors and its captains. It can purchase the boxes to put all the goods in. They're able to grow their company using the ready flow of capital. In addition, it makes the business less risky. If more people are sharing the burden, and the risk, if that ship sinks in the middle of the Indian Ocean, that's okay. It's not all of my fault. Does that make sense? By the way, this is also the time period where insurance comes and is developed. And yes, you guessed it. Young males under the age of 25 were paying more for insurance than young ladies before the age of 25. Because the sexism. That's not true. That's actually just something. That's a common day thing, a modern day thing. What? Anyway, so you see the development of these joint stock companies, which are going to be granted charters. Now, charters are important to understand because these companies were literally able to make treaties with other nations. They were able to go to war on behalf of these countries. They were essentially given a total control and authorization to do whatever they want in the Indian Ocean on behalf of both the Netherlands and the British Crown. It'd be like Apple being given a charter by the United States to go conquer China. This would be really weird in a lot of different ways. But anyway, they're also granted monopolies in these businesses. If you wanted to buy any sort of Asian product in England or in your English colonies, you have to buy it from the East India Company, which is why Pirates of the Caribbean made them the enemy and the bad guys. Why is this the case? What comes to be developed is an understanding of economic theory called mercantilism. Mercantilism in general wants you to control the balance of trade. And the reason is this. According to mercantilism, the amount of wealth in the world is fixed. So, picture you're on a cross the tree, a hot tree, a watercolor tree, and your coach orders one pizza, one whole pizza. Just one, you're a whole team. That pizza is divided what? That pizza is going to be divided into different slices. If you want more, you have to take away from somebody else because the wealth is fixed. So I don't know, Hannah wanted more from the water polo banquet. She would have to take some. Oh, but this is Hannah and this is Angie. I don't know why I would ever guess this would happen. If Anna wanted more, she would have to take Angie's piece. Does that make sense? That's what mercantilism is. And the way that you show that you have done that is by getting more pizza, or what Europeans would call bouillon, which is not just a delicious spice that you put in my favorite dish, which is stroganoff, but what bouillon is precious metals of gold and silver. The only way to get gold and silver is to or to sell more than you bought. So what you want is a favorable balance of trade. You want to sell more than you buy, or you want to export more than you import. Does that make sense? Good. Okay. What this means is that what Europeans are going to do is they're going to become the middlemen of the Indian Ocean. They are going to engage in a lot more business. Why are they able to do so? Well, they have advancements in ship technology, and don't forget cannons. Because a ship with cannons is way better than a ship without cannons if you're trying to control trade. And then, I go into this more, but the major products that Europeans are going to help facilitate are spices from Indonesia, from Southeast Asia, and South Asia, silver from the Americas, which is going to go mainly where? China, which is called the Silver Train, nice! And then fur from North America and Russia, because it's cold, and the Little Ice Age. And then, of course, from Africa, the slave trade. Oh, good! So, what are some of the impacts of globalization? The impacts of globalization, and really with the incorporation of the Americas, you have a major world event that you are going to study in world history. You're going to study in AP US history. And when all of you decide to take AP European history because you're gluttonous for punishment, you are then going to also study the Columbian Exchange again. It's a major world event, which really gives you. I would not even been able to do this without the Columbian Exchange, because I want you to imagine something for a second. I want you to imagine your favorite Italian food, and now I want you to imagine your favorite Italian food without tomatoes. Is it just pasta and olive oil? Like, what is it? Because the Italians didn't have tomatoes. They didn't have tomatoes before the Europeans conquered the Americas. So the Columbian Exchange refers to the exchange in goods, in people, and in diseases that occurred because of Columbus's voyages and rediscovery of the Americas. Probably the biggest thing that is so fascinating to many is the spread of disease. The spread of smallpox, measles, flu, get vaccinated. Smallpox, measles, and flu was largely decimated the native population. I mean, it says 90% of the natives in the Americas. In Mexico alone, it was 95%. 95%! That is incredible! And it was done somewhat intentionally as well, as the Europeans would actually give blankets for people who were sick with smallpox and flu or measles. They would give them to the natives in order to try to infect them. So it is, like the Mongols, use of biological warfare. Don't worry though, the Americans did smack them back a little bit. Because, and nicely done, whoever said it, the Americans, when Europeans went back, there was a lot more outbreaks of syphilis in Europe. And that's largely because of the conquistadors and others who went to the Americas, extracted those diseases, and then spread those around and spread those around Europe. I get it now. That's what he meant by mixing. From the Americas, you have maize, corn, potatoes, and tomatoes as well. A lot of tomatoes. From to the Americas, domesticated animals. Also something interesting. When you think of the symbol of American life, you think of the wild beast. It roams the plains. No, I think of Fortnite. The wild Mustang, which is actually an animal that had never been around before. Same thing with the cow or the pig. Rice, wheat, sugar, vegetables, and of course the best is the destruction of the environment, as goods and plants are now distributed. What you're going to see is that the Americas are going to become places of cash crops, which are going to cause the increase in the use of the land and the use of soil. And how can you look at this kid and not remember that disease is spread? Jenica takes a picture of it. Good. So what are some of the cultural effects? So ladies and gentlemen, what you start having here, particularly with the spread and increase of global empires. The Europeans are not the only ones expanding their empire. You're going to have the expansion of the Mughal dynasty in South Asia. You're going to have the expansion of the Ming and Qing dynasty in East Asia. You're going to have the unification of Japan and kind of the spread of Japanese empire in the Tokugawa shogunate. You are going to also have in Southwest Asia the expansion of the Ottoman and the empires, all of which are going to be gaining power and incorporating incredibly diverse groups of people into those empires, largely using gunpowder technology. With that, you are going to have major cultural effects, particularly in the fact that you have a lot of different groups of people who are going to now be under one group's political control. So the question that many of these global empires had to ask is, how do we handle such diversity? How do we deal with all of these people with different beliefs? Do we oppress them? Do we tolerate them? Do we do a mixture of the two? What does that look like? And so what you're going to see are major cultural effects because of the increased interaction between people. So the first is the spread and syncretism of religious and traditional beliefs. Great examples of this is voodoo in New Orleans, in the Caribbean, and in southern United States, which is a combination of Vodun, a traditional African animistic religion, and Catholicism. You've got Sikhism in India, which is a combination of Hinduism and Islam, and then kind of the Christian religion out of that. The Sufis in India are largely going to be responsible for spreading that. I love the Sufis. They are the mystical branch of Islam who want to experience, want a personal connection with Allah by either spinning around in circles really fast, which is what these people are doing when they're dancing, and or taking some sort of alcohol or drugs. And then, of course, Catholicism in the Americas. With the Americas, you also see the development of and the incorporation of both traditional Catholic beliefs with native beliefs. A great example of that is the Virgin of Guadalupe. Another example of that is especially in South America and Bolivia, you see Mother Mary, the Virgin Mary, being incorporated with a mother goddess that was related to the mountain of Potosi, which is a wonderful document in your book that you can see. So you see that there's the spread and sinking. You also see the reforming of old tradition, the changing of tradition. Now this happens in Europe with a huge event called the Reformation, where the Catholic Church loses its hegemony over the entire continent of Europe. With a man by the name of Martin Luther, who spoke out against some of the abuses and corruption of the Catholic Church and started his own church called the Lutherans, which is creatively named as those who follow Luther. After Lutheranism, you then see other Protestant denominations or other Christian denominations who said, hey, I don't totally agree with that, let's change it again. Which is why as you drive around Santa Barbara and you look at the different Christian churches, there are A, a million of them. You could literally go for a walk and run into about 5. And B, they'll all be different denominations, different types of Protestant Christians. You see reformations happening in other places too. Most notably in Southwest Asia, you have al-Wahhab, or Wahhabism, which is the rejection of any sort of syncretism that was occurring in the Ottoman Empire, and actually wanting to go back to what is later going to be called fundamentalist Islam. Back to the basics. It's in the Quran, it says it, listen or die. Which is, by the way, Wahhabism is a kind of official Islamic branch that many terrorist groups around the world also continue to follow. Also, with the modern-day Saudi Arabia, the Saudis also follow. And then, of course, in China, you have a reformation of Confucianism as well, with the policies of Wang Yangming and Cao Zheng. Wang Yangming saying, truth is in all of us, dude. It's within you. It's not on Snapchat. It's within you. And you don't need a Confucian education or an AP World History textbook to prove that, which we all know. But anyway, you also see some changes in the arts. In Europe, you have a flowering culture called the Renaissance because of Europe's connection to the outside world, namely the Ottoman Empire and Islam, and the rediscovery of some ancient Greek and Roman artworks. You see paintings now having more naked people in it. You see woodcuts in Japan as Japan's connection to the outside world creates a consumerist culture, and actually it's really fun. So when you think of Japanese culture, most people really like the samurai, or they seem to you love samurai culture because it's a militaristic culture. It's a macho culture. I mean, they even commit suicide in a crazy way where they cut open their belly in a circle and let their entrails come out as their best friend cuts their head off. I mean, and they're not allowed to make a noise. And so the idea of this machismo culture in Japan is often seen, but in the early modern era, as the samurai are less needed under the Tokugawa shogunate, they become poets. Who spend their nights, their days in the profession of being very serious and stoic, and their nights watching food. So, and doing things like the woodcuts, and that creates the floating worlds in Edo, which is really cool. And then, of course, other sorts of art as well. You're also going to see, because of the creation of these global empires, a change in the social organization, largely because of the need for labor. As more and more trade is occurring, more and more things need to be grown, more and more things need to be made. So you see different labor techniques affecting the social hierarchy. More with an increased demand, you're also going to see peasant labor is going to intensify. Particularly in India, you're going to see, and in the South and the American colonies, the production of cotton. In China, the intensification of silk production is occurring. Don't forget that this is also going to see the role of women changing as women are going to be kicked out of the silk industry in China. We can see the development of plantation economy around craft crops like sugar. If any of you have been to the Caribbean or been to Brazil, Brazil, you know that a lot of the countryside is sugar plantation. Why is that? Well, because sugar was incredibly demanded in Europe as Europeans needed something to sweeten their tea, their chocolate, and their coffee because they were too big of wusses to just have straight cacao. And so you see that the growing demand is going to literally change change the economy. And plantation economies are going to be largely developed around the use of African slaves, particularly in the colony. Which then again makes sense. As you see, different methods of coerced labor. Now, in order for people to be able to make the journey from Europe to the Americas, you're going to see a practice called indentured servitude. Indentured servitude. What that means is that a plantation owner or a business owner in the Americas will pay for your voyage. When you get to the Americas, you are going to earn a salary that is basically just going to pay back what you owe that plantation owner or that business owner. You're going to pay your own way for working. It's like going out to eat, realizing you forgot your wallet, and then having to go wash the dishes in the back and then do the things you need. Which I don't think anybody actually does. People do that a lot. I've heard it even this week, and I don't know why. And then in the Americas, you're going to see the encomienda system. And the encomienda system is something that's important to understand about labor systems in Latin America. It was intended to be something that was helpful for the natives. As the Spanish conquistadors conquered native groups, the Spanish crown said it is your job to protect them and convert them. What wound up happening is the conquistadors realized that the Spanish crown was 3,000 miles away, and a long 6-week journey or something like that. A 3-week journey. So it's going to take a long time for things to get there. So they realized we need to give the natives as slaves. In fact, we can even tax them for the protection we are offering. And so that's exactly what winds up happening. Natives are put in slave-like conditions, working on plantations, working on ranches, and working in the mines of Potosi. Yes, it's in Brazil, it's in all of Latin America. It's okay. Yep, 100%. Good. You're also going to see the creation of new political and economic elites. And first things first is looking at the different ethnic groups that are going to control. Now, the Ming Dynasty takes over China for the Chinese. They kick out the Yuan Dynasty, using actually one of the first ever recorded instances of gunpowder technology. They kick out the Chinese. They create China for the Chinese. Get out of that foreign influence. And then they have troubles, and what do? They don't learn the Roman Empire, and they invite some northern nomad barbarians, or the Manchus, into their military. What happens? The Manchus decide to stay, and they then take over and create the Qing Dynasty. So the Manchus are going to become political and economic elites in China. They will be on top. They'll even force the Chinese to wear the Manchu-style haircut, which I guarantee is the next popular proper haircut. You shave the entirety of your head, save the back, where you have a long braid that goes all the way down your back. It's like what Mr. Getler has, but like on steroids. And so it'll be popular. I guarantee you, like Ramo's gonna get it, or one of the guys is gonna get it. And then we're gonna have tight pants and really fancy haircut. Anyway, another probably better example is in the Americas, particularly Latin America, the creation of the casta system. Now, the casta system is going to be a syncretic social system that will develop because of the creation of literally new racial groups. You have the Peninsulares on top. Those are those people who are sailing from the Iberian Peninsula or Spain and Portugal and governing places in the Americas. When they have children in the Americas who are still full-blooded Spanish or Portuguese, they are going to be called Creoles. And the Creoles are going to become essentially the economic elite within, or at least the middle class, within Latin America. When the Europeans begin to mix, you say, with they're going to mix, remember, with the natives, they will be called mestizos. When Europeans are going to mix, you say, when they mix with the African slaves, they will create mulattoes. And the casta system really gets extremely complicated, and they had names for pretty much every mixture you could possibly say. But it's those who are the whitest and most European who are on top. traditional elites. In Japan, these are the aristocratic landowners called the daimyos. Now, it's somewhat of a continuity because the daimyo are going to lose power and some of which are going to go completely broke because they're trying to buy the biggest houses without any actual income, which is really bad. And of course, the nobility in Europe, and that's going to be the ancien regime, where you have the nobility, those people with landed estates since the Middle Ages, who are going to maintain their authority over the political and economic spheres of Europe, over especially the third estate, who is the growing bourgeoisie and the traditional peasants. I really should have put this one first. That's okay. But you see the creation of a new global empires. And these new empires are put into two separate categories. The first is the one that I say is maritime empires. Now, maritime does not actually refer to some sort of Disney park, although the maritime is what the Disney cruise line is called. But anyway, maritime is over the ocean. So you see this creation of ocean empires as Europe conquers the Americas. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And then you also see the expansion of land-based empires as well, and here are the different ones that you should know. The Ming and the Qing dynasty in East Asia or in China, the Mughal dynasty in South Asia, and I do want you to see, the Mughal dynasty is able to conquer a majority of northern India. But it is important to remember that southern India, and really kind of this whole area here, is going to maintain independence, and it's individual Hindu princes who are going to control various territories in southern India. This is going to play a huge role as the British East India Company begins to continuously make inroads and eventually conquer the majority of India during the modern era. The Qing dynasty, it's important to know, in China, are actually going to expand China to its current border. It's going to begin to not only take over southern China and parts of Manchuria and even into Korea, but is also going to expand to conquer many of those territories in Central Asia. So while the Mongols had a wonderful moment during the post-classical era, they will lose it during the early modern era. Here's something that I want you to know. It is the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire is one to know because it is the major Islamic empire. It takes over after the fall of the Mongols, but also after the fall of the Abbasid dynasty. They are going to be especially known or especially prominent during the early modern era. There's another Islamic empire that you don't really need to know that much about, but that is the Safavid Empire. And the only thing you really need to know about them is that they are the only Shia Islamic empire. They're the only Shia Islamic empire. Ottoman, Mughal, Safavid, Ming, and Qing are all known as gunpowder empires. Why? Because they use gunpowder to gain and maintain power. Makes a lot of sense. And ladies and gentlemen, I oftentimes forget, and if you're in my class right now, you know that we haven't really talked about this, but the Russian Empire is also one that expands during the early modern era. As you see the Mongols retreating after absolutely demolishing that place periodically, you see the Muscovites expanding their territory under a few Ivans. One was great, another was terrible. And eventually incorporating all of the territory that is modern-day Russia, expanding into northern Asia, taking Siberia, crossing over and even taking Alaska, and throughout this. The only thing that I find really fun about the Russian Empire, actually there's a lot of things that I find, but one thing that I do is that the responsibility fell on a man by the name of Stroganoff, which of course you know is my favorite meal. So, how do they gain and maintain power? And this is kind of important because you have these large expansive empires. How do they get it, and how do they keep this power? And some of these things are obvious, and some of these things are kind of new. So the first is the use of public works, particularly monumental architecture and better urban design. These cities, these capital cities, are going to become massive, and as trade increases, so are the cities as well. And so empires are going to work to try to rebuild any roads that are destroyed, build new roads, and create the infrastructure that is necessary. In addition to, similar to all of the empires that we've really studied, are going to use monumental architecture to inspire awe. You see here the creation of the Blue Mosque in Istanbul. You see the Taj Mahal. I forget which palace this is in China, but also an example of monumental architecture. The use of religion. In Europe, this is the use of the divine right of king. Why is Louis XIV considered a king? Well, he has the best calves in Europe and looks great in tights. But the other reason why Louis XIV is in power is because God put him there. Don't question him, you peasant. Another example of that is, of course, the Ming Dynasty reinstating Confucian rituals like the Mandate of Heaven and other important roles of the emperor. And then, again, Shiism and the Safavids. You're going to see this. I'm also going to just say, just as well, you're also going to see Akbar of the Mughal dynasty. It's a trap! He's going to create his own sort of syncretic religious belief that is going to place emphasis away from religious division in India, Hindus versus Muslims, and more saying, hey, but we can all agree on Akbar, right? I mean, he's great. I mean, the saying in Islam is, Allahu Akbar, which is God is great, but it also means God is Akbar. And so Akbar literally kind of creates his own little cult of kingship as well, which is a good one. And then his grandson is going to then, we'll get there. And then you see the treatment of others. Much of the way that they're going to maintain control is to grow their bureaucracy, create new laws, create new institutions. In China, the government body that was in charge of directing those conquered territories, particularly in Central Asia, is called the Court of Colonial Affairs. The Court of Colonial Affairs, which largely tried to handle sectarian or minority conflicts in each of these areas before it got out of hand. You see the Balkans under the Ottomans. Now the Balkans is southeastern Europe. That's what that place is. Until we really talk about World War I and then all of you take AP European history, you probably don't really need to know that. But the Balkans in southeastern Europe is going to come under the control of the Ottoman Empire. Now the Ottoman are Islamic. Oh, I don't know how I say it like that. The Ottoman are Islamic, and the Balkans are largely Christian, particularly Orthodox Christian. So the question then is, what do we do with all these Christians? Oh, I know. Let's steal their little boys out of their mother's arms, teach them Turkish, convert them to Islam, raise them up in our education system, train them to be the most BA fighting force in all the early modern era, and if they can't fight, fine. We'll put them in the bureaucracy and we'll call them literally, they take little Christian boys away from their mothers and convert them and create them into elite soldiers and elite bureaucrats in order to A, get rid of the Christian problem, and B, also grow their own bureaucracy in order to keep up with rising population. Yeah. That's the Ottomans. And it's called the Devshirme system. The Devshirme system. So you guys played Fortnite. Back in my day, it was Age of Empires. And I used to play this game with my buddy, and you wanted to have the Janissaries. They were the elites. They were the best. It was Fortnite. I'll just build a wall real quick. Oh shoot, I didn't get the dub. And then, of course, the treatment of others. We talked about Akbar. Hey, let's create a peaceful tradition. But this was a trap because his grandson Aurangzeb largely reverses his policy, falls under the influence of the religious scholars and elite ulama, and then reinstates the jizya and begins a policy of official oppression and suppression of Hinduism under the Mughal dynasty, which is going to come back to bite India in the butt during the modern era. Of course, I've already talked about this a little bit. Large armies and bureaucracy. We've seen the gunpowder technology, definitely system we've talked about. In Japan, you are going to see the use of samurai in order to maintain power. Samurai will maintain military and political supremacy, sort of, despite the fact that they're going to be more about poetry and wars. And then, of course, in China, the reinstatement and massive expansion of the civil service exam. Lastly, another good continuity from the post-classical era is the fact that tribute payments and tax farming is something that will be continued. In Japan, for example, taxes are going to be collected in rice, and as rice becomes more plentiful, that's when the price of rice goes down, which is when the dynamo loses power and money. There. In the Qing dynasty especially, is going to enact, or is going to extract tribute from places in their peripheries, like in Central Asia, and the Russians will do that too. In fact, the Russians will conquer all the way over Siberia, but the problem, the Russians have a hard time getting people to really want to go to Siberia. So they have a hard time also maintaining control. So what do? simply just say, hey, Central Asians, Siberians, you give us regular payments of fur, you give us regular payments of fur, and we'll largely leave you alone, which is an example of tribute farming, or tribute payments. And then, of course, lastly, and then we'll start doing some essay work, looking over rivalries and rebellions. Just something that is important to know that as Europe is smashing their way into the Indian Ocean, it's not like they aren't meeting with resistance. And one of the biggest is the Omani War, in which Portugal actually wins, but it largely damages Portugal's navy and really takes away Portuguese hegemony in the Indian Ocean. By the way, Oman is not a misspelling. It wasn't like, oh man. No, Oman is a Southwest Asian country on the Arabian Peninsula. Of course, the Pirates of the Caribbean is Johnny Depp was putting on mascara and copying Keith Richards, who you probably don't know, maybe some of you do. Why do I put that under rivalry? And I wish we had more time. I really wish we had more time to talk about this. Because the early modern era is the age of piracy. And British kings, or excuse me, European kings and queens hired pirates in order to raid other countries' ships. So for instance, Drake is a great example of that as somebody who was hired by the British Crown in order to be a wonderful pirate both in the Americas and all across the Caribbean as well. And so again, they're all hunting Captain Jack Sparrow. Another rivalry, a good example of that is the Ottoman versus the Safavids. Again, Shia Islam versus Sunni Islam, and the Safavid are largely going to reach out to the Ottomans. The Europeans are going to fight 30 Years' War, which is about 30 years. And it's going to largely be over religious reasons. And again, you all take the European history. Oh yeah. And then I forgot to, you are going to have periodic samurai revolts in Japan against the Tokugawa shogun, which will have to be suppressed. And then, of course, peasant uprisings. It's really awful. No, 30 Years' War is another example of, I think that was political and economic competition. This is religious competition. 30 Years' War. It's largely European powers fighting for which branch of Christianity they want. I love 30 Years' War. The reason it started in my favorite class of history. Defenestration. To defenestrate somebody, to throw them off the window and everyone starts thinking about what they're doing. The defenestration of Prague, when the Catholic officials in the Holy Roman Empire went to the Protestant Czechs and checked up on them, and the Czechs didn't like it, so they threw them out the second-story window. But the Catholic officials were saved miraculously by angels. Or the Protestant version was gone with big power in the war. Either or. And that started a huge religious war. That you then had the Swedes come in, so that's that. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is, I believe, all I have on the early modern era. Are there any questions before we move on? Go ahead. A pirate? Your great grandpa is a pirate? Oh, nice. That's right. I forgot about that. Yes, if they were caught by the other, oh, of course, 100%. Yes. You're not going to officially say, oh, yes, of course I hired the pirate in order to raid your ships. No. I would never do that. Good. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, last week we went over some essay work. And I'd like to paraphrase what I heard as we went over essay work. Which is natural. Now, I just want to go over what to do when you are given an essay prompt. Because I think it is important to know that, yes, writing essays is super difficult. It is really, really hard. Particularly because, yeah, you gotta remember all of those things that you studied in this class, and you gotta think of specific evidence. but I also want you to be okay with not knowing absolutely everything. So I just wanted to go through a little bit where I'll give you a prompt because I have day 3. Oh no, I don't want that one. Ooh. Here's a good one. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get it for you right now. All right. All right. Why don't you take 30 seconds? Collect your. No, seriously, you can take 30 seconds. Collect yourselves. Breathe a little bit. Stretch. Whatever you got to do. We'll come back in about 30 seconds. And 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, so essay prompts. I want to break it down just into steps for you so you don't feel like it's overwhelming at first. The first thing you want to do when you get an essay prompt is break it down. The biggest complaint that essay graders have is that that students do not answer the question, which sounds kind of like, duh, but you'd be surprised. The questions are not always asked in really clear ways. So you do have to make sure you spend some time in breaking down what that prompt is and what it actually wants. So, I have trained you how to do that. Whenever you see the word analyze, what does that mean? Yeah, you write EPEX. You're going to break it down into EPEX, right? You're going to break it down. And you base drop, all that fun stuff. You're going to break it down. If you're in Miss Jacobson's class, that means you're going to, bam, throw some spice on it. You're going to spice it up a little bit, which means you're going to break down into themes. What's our main idea? That is true. What is our main idea of the prompt? Thank you, Emma. One continuity and one change in the impacts of interregional trade. Stop. What does that mean? CCOT. It does mean it's a CCOT essay. What does that mean? Actually, you know what? Let's change this. No. Oh, stop. Yeah. Let's do a compare and contrast prompt. This is better for you. Listen. So, you're analyzing one similarity and one difference in the impacts of interregional trade. First things first. What does that mean? Yeah, trade between two different places. Trade within oneself, intra-regional trade. But inter-regional trade is between multiple regions. Does that make sense? Okay. You are looking at one similarity and one difference in the impact. So what impact does interregional trade have? And how are they similar in two of the following regions? And then what is this? The time period. Now that should say 1450 CE, which is which time period? Thank you, early modern era, the one that we're talking about right now. The early modern era. Ladies and gentlemen, before you get into this, it's a step that I never really made you do necessarily in class, but I think after last week, I do think it would be important. Right off the top, you don't have to spend a lot of time. What are impacts of interregional trade during this time period? Spread of religion. Disease. Growth? Or gross? Population growth because of new foods. Oh, spread of crops. Interesting. What do people like to have? Tomatoes. Luxury goods. We see the spread of luxury goods. What about? I don't have any bulk commodities on me. What about bulk commodities? Right? Luxury goods. What'd you say, Jake? Right? The expansion of cities, of trade cities. Absolutely. What did I just have you do?
Brainstorm.
I just had you brainstorm. I just had you get your mind thinking about what this is even talking about. I wouldn't spend a lot of time on it, but I might think before I even start looking at the prompt, what do I know about this topic in general? And then you start to say, okay, what do I remember were some impacts during the early modern age? Columbian exchange. Spread of disease. Spread and syncretism of religion. Growth in population. Okay? So you got to start thinking in those sorts of terms. Now, the next thing you want to do is choose the different places. Well, we could do Asia, and we could do Europe. Could we also do North Africa? No. No. Slave trade, right? You could do North Africa. It's West Africa. It's also North Africa too, but yeah, so that's West Africa. But I would do Asia. I would probably do Asia and Europe, or Asia and or Europe and the Middle East. Does that make sense? So, how would you set up your further brainstorm? What would you then do next? Here's what I would start to do.
Insert table.
I would insert table.
3 by 3.
I mean, you can. E, P, E, C, S, Europe. Asia? Is it Asia? Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, what I've just done here is just set up just a basic compare and contrast thing where you want to now think about what were the effects of the interregional trade in Europe and in Asia, and just put it side by side on your paper. Yes, you can't insert table on the AP exam. I'm just doing it so that the people who are watching the video know what we're doing instead of having to imagine me drawing it on the board, which is slightly weird and awkward. So, does that make sense? So, that's what I'd like you to do right now. Take 6 minutes. Brainstorm potential impacts of interregional trade in Europe and in Asia. Got it? Timer goes now.
No,
Not for me. I'm gonna give you another minute.
Well, which one was the one in Asia that spread the trade?
The one what?
Cause at first I felt Mongol, but I was like, this is way after that.
Empire?
Yeah, an empire.
Qing.
Oh, the Ming Qing Empire. They weren't they? I guess Islam was big in trade, right?
Can you stop?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I like hearing conversations. I really do. I think it's fun to hear just the energy in the room. I applaud you for that. Now, it's okay. Listen, it's okay. This is hard. Okay? This is hard. And be okay with it being hard. If it's freaking you out, that's okay. Again, yeah, you're going to want to remember evidence, but if you can at least start with some of the basic points. For example, politically, what do we see happening as a result of connection to trade in Europe? What do you mean by bureaucracy, and how is that an impact of trade? Whoa, hold on a second. Let's just go through this first, because Vincent just mentioned a nice piece of evidence. He mentioned charters. What were those companies called? Joint stock companies. Wait, why is that related to politics? Say it again. They are, and you see a close relationship between merchants and the government, right? We see that? Good. Does anybody remember any of those names of the joint stock companies? Yes. Good. You've got the Dutch East India Company and the... Okay. Wait. What I see is 3 pieces of evidence right there. Right? Now, hold on a second, ladies and gentlemen. Something you might not have remembered, but you also might have remembered because I talked about Zheng He. What is the Chinese official policy on trade? Somebody said it. The Chinese official policy on trade. They limit foreign trade. Because they hate and mistrust merchants. China for the Chinese. Kick out those foreigners. Get out of there. They want to limit foreign trade. Does that make sense? And I believe Guangzhou, which Eddie taught us, is the same as Canton. Is an example of that city that they limited trade to. Okay. Stop. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 pieces of evidence here that could go in a body paragraph. I just need somebody to tell me what the difference is. And that it's an impact of interregional trade. Or maybe it's a similarity, actually. What's the similarity? Yeah, what about it? Right. Ladies and gentlemen, come on. I want you to think, what is a European monarchy doing that the Chinese are not? Yes. And who is expanding it and making that decision? They don't make that decision in China.
Oh. Wait, what?
So my question to you is, who is choosing to, because this is what you said, who is choosing to either expand trade or limit trade? And I don't mean country, I mean who's making this decision within each region?
A strong centralized government.
Say it again.
The strong centralized government.
The state. So an impact, it could be a difference or a similarity. The similarity could be the state attempts to play a greater role in trade. It's an impact because as trade expands, government wants to control it. Does that make sense? It's also a difference in the degree to which governments decide to sponsor foreign trade. Does that make sense? Because the Europeans are going to sponsor it through these joint stock companies, these charters. The Chinese are going to try to limit it. Limit it. China for the Chinese. Yes. I know. Does that make sense? Ava? Because governments are having to change their policies and strategies. And so, Ava, the reality is it's not really directly an impact, but it is something